Don't worry, guys. I have now finally seen Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Even though I'm a week late here because last weekend I was on a bit of a trip, so I wasn't able to watch it then. And then, school throughout the week, so I had to wait till this weekend to watch it. But man, it was so worth the wait. Because this is film, a decade in the making here. These Guardians we have fallen in love with. They've gone from characters that, when they first said they were making a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, we were like, what? Why would you do that? To being a shocking success and just an amazing movie, turning into now an amazing trilogy with these 3 films from James Gunn. And this right here is the conclusion, the final chapter to this story. The last time we will see this iteration of the Guardians, the last time James Gunn will direct a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. We could see some of these characters return in the future. We could see more Guardians of the Galaxy movies in the future, but it will definitely not be the same. And as you may know, usually I would do both a non-spoiler review and a spoiler review for movies when they first come out. But for this one, I'm just going to do the spoiler review because I didn't get to see it till its second weekend. So less people are going to watch a non-spoiler review at this point. So this is a spoiler review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch this video. Full spoiler warning. We're talking full spoilers for this movie. So be warned. But let's waste no further time. Let's just jump into this and talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I want to start off by talking about my initial reaction to this film. Because to be completely honest, as I was walking out the theater, or actually even before, like when the movie ended and I was sitting there watching the credits, waiting for the post-credit scenes and everything, I was a little disappointed at first. Not so much anymore, but like I said, I'll explain it in a second. Because I was just disappointed at first because this is a film that it was built up so much to be, yes, this is it. This is the final time we'll see these Guardians. Some will live, some will die. Either way, this is the last time we'll see them. This is the conclusion to their story. And so I fully believed that somebody was going to die. At least one of them, if not a couple of these main Guardians would die. And nobody died. And it was just like, I had mixed feelings on it because it was like, it's not like I wanted them to die or anything. I'm glad they got the happy ending. But at the same time, I was just so fully expecting somebody to die. It felt a little underwhelming when nobody did die. Like I was saying to myself a couple days ago before I watched this film, like they have built it up so much for Rocket Raccoon to die. If he doesn't, I might actually be disappointed that he doesn't. And I was at first. Especially when you have something like that scene towards the end where Peter basically dies, he freezes in space just like Yondu did in Volume 2. I don't know how he survived that thing because he looked pretty dead to me, but he didn't. So that little cop-out scene there where he almost died, but he didn't. I thought Drax might die. But nobody died. Everybody gets the happy ending. And the only real death in this film, other than, of course, Rocket's first family, which we'll definitely talk about that later because that was so emotional. The real death of this film is just the team itself, is the Guardians of the Galaxy, because they disband as a group. And that's something we obviously knew was going to happen. But again, I still just thought somebody would die. So that was my initial thoughts on this. I was initially disappointed, but now that I've had some time to kind of sit on it and analyze this film and my thoughts, my feelings on it, I don't feel that initial disappointment anymore. There's still a little part of me that's like, man, I kind of wish somebody died. But at the same time, I am glad that they got that happy ending. The team has disbanded, but everybody got to go off on their own and have their own happy little ending, and I actually really enjoy that. And so obviously we're going to talk about each character individually and my thoughts on them, but I got to start with Rocket Raccoon because he is, this is his movie. This is Rocket's story. We open on Rocket, we close on Rocket. Rocket Raccoon is such a tragic character. Honestly, he has one of the most tragic origin stories I think I've ever seen done in film. I mean, we knew that based on these trailers, but just not even that does it justice to what you actually see in this film. And this movie gets dark. Like, it gets really disturbing with this story. It really goes to show, like it's a great example and commentary on animal cruelty. And it's just so disturbing. I mean, Rocket has always, like, he's hinted at this in the previous films of, like, oh, he's a monster. He didn't ask to be created. All this stuff. And now you get to see where he came from. He was a little baby raccoon that was experimented on by the High Evolutionary. He was taken apart and put back together again. He is a genius. And he has been through so much. He formed this bond, this first family with Lila. It was great to see Lila in this film. So beautifully voiced by Linda Cardellini. So emotional, that relationship between her and Rocket. And I do like that, obviously in the comics, Lila and Rocket, like, they have a romance together. But in this film, it's just a friendship, because that's all Rocket really needed here, was just friends with Lila and Teefs and Floor. And oh my god, like, it was disturbing seeing what had happened to these creatures, but this was Rocket's family, and seeing their death. And the most emotional part of that death is not these characters dying, but just Rocket's reaction to it, him just screaming out in pain. It's just, like, I'm starting to tear up just thinking about it. It was so emotional. And then how he just lashes out on the High Evolutionary, and you just get such a graphic scene for an MCU Disney movie of him just scratching High Evolutionary's face apart. And it was brutal, but awesome at the same time. I love also how, we get to see where his name came from, Rocket. He looked up in the sky, he saw a rocket and everything. He embraces the name of Rocket, Raccoon. He always says in every single one of these movies, I'm not a raccoon. I don't know what a raccoon is, but that ain't me. But he finally acknowledges in this film that he is no longer 89P13. He is Rocket Raccoon. I love that. And then in the end, when he becomes the captain of the Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just such a perfect full circle moment for this character, because this whole time he's just been looking for a family, and the Guardians have been his family. And even with the Guardians disbanding, he still sticks around with the team. And to lead this next generation, this next iteration of the Guardians, I think is just so powerful. And High Evolutionary, while we're here, might as well discuss him a bit. He was an amazing villain. I think one of the most purely evil villains we have ever seen in the MCU. Like, he can be taken in a few different ways. Like, some people could say he's just a one note purely evil villain. But I like the take on this character, and the idea that he is just somebody who wants to perfect everything, and kind of the idea of what is perfect. And I love that line of his, where one of his henchmen says something about God, and he says, God does not exist, that's why I stepped up. Like, such a powerful line there. And just his obsession. Chikudia Wuji, amazing actor. I was so impressed with his performance in Peacemaker, so I was really excited to see him here, and he just knocks it out of the park. He's so demented and egotistical, and just, again, it's another thing that people could really take for granted and say, oh, he's just yelling all the time. But no, just like the egotistical nature of this character. I love how the reason he hates Rocket so much is because he sees Rocket as his creation. He sees Rocket as an abomination, but somehow this abomination is smarter than me. How did he figure this out and I couldn't? I love that commentary, and that was just so genius. And again, Chikudia Wuji was great as this villain. Now, one of the new characters we also get to see introduced in this film, one of High Evolutionary's creations, is Adam Warlock. Of course, him and his relationship with his mother, Aisha, who we saw in Volume 2, and the Sovereign. I thought that was great to see. Adam Warlock was a character that I definitely wish we got to see more of this film, because he didn't have a huge role, But what we did have of this character, I thought was really nicely done. Obviously starting off as just, a pure villain, basically just working for Aisha and the High Evolutionary, and just such a powerful character. And, he is very much an adolescent. He was taken out of his cocoon early, so he has, obviously the body of a man, but the mind of an adolescent. And, his redemption arc, him joining the Guardians by the end. I love seeing that. I think Will Poulter did a great job. And this is probably the character out of everyone in this film, even though everybody survived and, there's these characters that we've grown to love for all these years that I would love to see more of in the future. But Adam Warlock, I think, is the number one character that I need to see more in the future of the MCU. Now, as for other Guardians, Nebula is a character that I, definitely used to not be a huge fan of because she was just like an angry robot lady, but she really comes into her own here, really bringing things full circle, becoming a part of this family that she always wanted. I love her ending of, wanting to kind of raise this new society on nowhere, take care of these children, and give them a home that she never had in the first place. I love that. I love Mantis. She was a character that in Volume 2 I found a bit annoying, and a little bit in Infinity War as well, but the holiday special really turned me around on this character, really made me grow to appreciate Mantis as a character. Her relationship with Peter, she's almost like the mother here. She's just the one, she's the glue that holds this team together, how much she cares about everybody. Her relationship with Drax, I love that. I love Drax in this movie as well, because Drax just, he's always been just the stupid, goofy muscle of the team. And that's acknowledged here by Mantis specifically, how she's talking about, yes, Drax is stupid. He's an idiot. But I don't care, because at least he's the one that, yes, he's sad. He has had loss as well. But he's the only one on this team who doesn't hate himself. He's the only one who's actually happy. And I love that acknowledgement there, because that's a great reasoning for why Drax is the way he is. And him with his whole fatherhood, obviously that's the big reason for his being in the first place. Drax in the first Guardians film, he just wants revenge for his wife and his daughter, and bringing that full circle here with him kind of bringing out that fatherhood side to him, and his ending with kind of becoming a father figure to all these children that are now going to be inhabiting nowhere. I love that. That's not all something I expected for this character, because I fully believed he was going to die, but I love that. I think that's a great approach for Drax's ending. Kraglin and Cosmo, they had a small role in the film, but I loved Cosmo, and Maria Bakalova, I think, did a great job. Kraglin, of course, has been around since the first Guardians film. I love him kind of finally joining the Guardians, mastering the Yaka era and everything. That was cool to see. Groot also didn't do like a whole lot in this film, but I really enjoyed seeing the kind of versatility of this new form. How he could, whip out the multiple arms and shoot all the blasters at once, how he could go into kaiju form, how he could be just a head walking around. In the mid-credit scene when we see he turns into Alpha Groot, that was really awesome to see. Gamora was interesting in this film, because Gamora, I honestly feel like, going into this, I was like, does she really even need to be here? And that's kind of been my feeling since she came back after Endgame. I was like, she died in Infinity War. Do we really need this other version of Gamora? But I do feel like we needed her. Not necessarily for her as a character, because this is a completely new character. She, as a character, I didn't really need her. But the big reason she was here was for Peter's story, for Peter to learn to be on his own without Gamora. Some people are probably upset that they didn't get back together in this film, but I'm glad they didn't, because that just would have felt so cheap and unrealistic. This is a much more realistic approach, and again, helps fuel Peter's story and drives him to go back to Earth as he does at the end of this film. And I just really enjoyed that take, and Gamora needed to be there for this one last mission to help Peter come to that conclusion. Now, with this being the final film in this Guardians trilogy, and this being the conclusion to this story, there are some other cool little tidbits that I kind of just want to throw out here and mention. I love the Marvel Studios intro. The opening, obviously that's they didn't do just the normal Marvel Studios intro. They replaced it with Guardians of the Galaxy characters and imagery throughout that. I love that. I think that was a great choice to do. The soundtrack here, of course, was great. I do think it's probably the weakest of the trilogy, but still there were some great songs on here that I really enjoyed seeing. I love the cameos. We got to see, of course, Sylvester Stallone back as Stakar. We got Martin X in there. Some of the other OG Ravagers / Guardians. I liked seeing Howard the Duck. The Broker was here. One of the guys from the old 97s that appeared in the holiday special. Another thing with Adam Warlock I forgot to mention is I really like the whole thing with like kind of the recreation of the creation of Adam art piece. I think that painting, that reference was really cool. Also another thing I forgot to mention about High Evolutionary. I love how when he was talking to Aisha, he stood up on top of a box because he was short, but again, because he's so egotistical, he just had to be taller than her. Literally pulling a Tom Cruise right there. I love that. That was hilarious. But also really fuels what his character is all about. And another thing I want to mention, this movie, it has a very similar plot line to Thor Love and Thunder towards the end, but this is a way better version than Thor Love and Thunder. I mean, the whole thing with like the kids and everything, and them having to save the kids, and then kind of with Drax like almost adopting the kids at the end, that's literally a way better version of Thor Love and Thunder. I think that's kind of hilarious. And obviously we have our mid and post-credit scene. Mid-credit scene I already kind of talked about with, the new Guardians being formed. We got Rocket Raccoon leading the team with Groot being there, them being the original members. You got Kraglin there now, and Cosmo as well, with now Adam Warlock, and also Phyla Vell, who was one of the children that they rescued. That was something that was spoiled for me ahead of time, so it wasn't a big surprise, but she's a character from the comics, so that's cool to see her involvement. And our end credit scene, that's what kind of left me just like straight up confused, because we had this great big ending for our Guardians, them all going off on their separate paths. Peter Quill, Star-Lord, he basically retired. He went back to Earth to live with his grandpa, and so I was just confused with this post-credit scene showing at the end with the legendary Star-Lord will return. What? Like, I'm confused by that. Like, he literally just retired, and then it's basically like, oh, just kidding. Like, this is one of the things I didn't like about, again, going back to the whole, like, nobody died thing. And, like, I was expecting more finality with this ending to the Guardians. Not necessarily a death. I can get past that. But it just feels like this is such an open ending that, like, any of these characters could come back. But will they? I don't know. I don't know when or where Star-Lord will come back. I kind of wish he wouldn't, because it almost would ruin this ending. But, I mean, that's what the post-credit scene set up, I guess. So, I guess we'll see where that goes. But, and kind of the same thing goes for, are we going to get a Guardians of the Galaxy 4? I think it's possible. Definitely not anytime soon. But we could definitely get another Guardians of the Galaxy movie not directed by James Gunn that could follow this new lineup of Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock, Kraglin, Cosmo, and Phyla. I think that'd definitely be cool to see, or maybe even a Disney Plus series. Or they could just have it be that, given this mid-credit scene, we know that they're out there. We know there is a new Guardians of the Galaxy. We may not get more Guardians of the Galaxy movies showing their stories, but we know that they're out there. Maybe they could just, to be recurring characters and show up in, like, a team-up event. Maybe we'll see them in Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars. That would be pretty cool to see. But definitely Adam Warlock, at least, I want to see more of in the future. So, yeah, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it was a great film. A great ending to this trilogy and to this story. I loved it. This is probably one of the best MCU movies. Well, no, definitely the best MCU movie we've gotten in a long, long time. Probably since Endgame. So I really enjoyed it. And I'm interested to see what you guys thought about it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. What did you think about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? What do you think about the future? Do you think we will get a fourth movie? Do you think some of these characters will return? Let me know in the comments below. So thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.